Hey guys, and thanks for joining us as we continue our journey of seeing if I can persuade you that right now you don't exist, and we're going to continue looking at the simulation hypothesis, or to be more specific, whether or not all of this could be generated inside of a computer. If you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you've got more than a passing interest and you probably know a lot about this subject matter already. So you may not learn anything new from this video. Yeah, thanks for that. I do know that there's better videos available on the internet probably. Yes, thanks for that again. Yeah, it is hard to do this, I realise that. But if you can't be supportive, just keep stum. What are you doing? Oh my gosh, where did you get a cheerleader outfit from? Especially one in that size. Doesn't matter. You look ridiculous. No, you don't look sexy ridiculous. Stop doing high kicks. Put some underwear on. Unfortunately, you're watching icing. If you saw our previous video introducing the simulation hypothesis, you will know that it's not really a new idea that what could be our reality is being generated by something outside of our reality. In the last few decades though, it's been compared a lot more to computer and computer simulation. The Wachowskis did it with the Matrix trilogy, and in 2003, Nick Bostrom, a professor at Oxford, wrote a paper called The Simulation Argument, which very much took on the academic viewpoint of, could this be simulated? But the history of whether or not this is a computer simulation predates those again by several decades. An example I'd like to bring to your attention is from 1977, where the sci-fi author and the visionary Philip K. Dick publicly put forward his viewpoint that he felt this could be a computer simulation, and I would dearly love to show you the footage of this, but, you know, copyright? Do you mean we don't have to worry about copyright? You've got a copyright breaker, yeah? Right. And how does that work? You just need to press that button, and then I don't need to worry about it. Right. Yeah, no, go ahead, press the button.
The subject of this speech is a topic which has been discovered recently and which may not exist at all. I may be talking about something that does not exist. Therefore, I'm free to say everything or nothing. We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present. Deja vu. Such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off, became actualized instead of the prior one, and that in fact, in literal fact, we are once more living this particular segment of linear time.
And now what happens? I don't need to worry about it. You're a moron. If you do get a chance to see the footage where Phil openly expresses his viewpoint on this being a computer simulation, you will see the audience looking quite incredulous and potentially viewing him like a total fruitcake. With good reason. Computing in the mid-70s was nowhere near the sophistication like we have today. As an example, in 1977, Atari had just released this console for homes that had this quality of graphics. So to try and postulate an idea to people that computing is going to have this potential power to produce these type of realities, yeah, they'd look at you like you're a nutter. Yeah, he probably did take psychedelic drugs, yeah. No, that doesn't make him a shaman. No. No, I'm not sure if he would be aware of the multiversal law that this is just recursive energy underpinning our base reality. I'm not sure many people are. No. But I do think he'd have been familiar with Moore's law. Moore's law is accredited to a gentleman called Gordon Moore, who was working for Intel in the mid-1960s. Yep, they're the ones. Gordon realised that computer power was going to increase exponentially as transistors were getting smaller and smaller and more could be put into integrated circuitry. So what this meant was what's cutting edge technology today in just a few years' time would become obsolete. And it's not just restricted to computer processors, but across lots of technologies. As an example, one of the earliest HDDs had a memory size of 5 megabytes, and it was this big. Today you can get something similar to this, which is 4 terabytes, 800,000 times more storage than what we have here. This one came with 3 cables so I can connect it to different devices. This one came with a free hernia. Thank you very much. Where'd you get the drum kit? I don't care. What do you mean, look, ma, no hands? Oh my gosh, I told you to put underwear on. So one of the first questions we really should be asking is, do we have the capacity to put the infrastructure in place to build a supercomputer that has the potential of generating this reality? So we need to talk about flops. Flops stands for floating point operations per second, or is how many calculations a computer can make per second. The very first computers came in at about 500 flops, meaning they were making about 500 calculations per second. So how does that compare with the supercomputers that we've got today? The world's current leading supercomputer that we know about, and I'm going to murder how we say this, the Fugaku, spelt like this.
Fugaku.
At Japan's Riken Institute, is it Riken? Go with Riken. Riken Institute has achieved a high of 442 petaflops. 1 petaflop is 10 to the power 15 flops. So to see that number visualized, it's about this big. Yeah, that is a lot of floppage. No, I don't need to see it like, oh. To put this in comparison to the human brain works at about 1 exaflop. Now, remember this number from earlier? An exaflop sticks an extra 3 zeros on the end. So does this suggest that even our best supercomputer is only working at half the number of calculations a second that the human brain does? So does that mean that we're not even in a position that we can even simulate just one human consciousness? Well, no, not really. But it does make it harder to try to convince people when we're talking these terms. But we have to bear in mind that the human brain is not like a computer. So there's a bit of irrelevancy trying to compare the two, because they're just not the same. What we are going to do though is look at the simulation hypothesis from the viewpoint of the academics rather than the artists and the visionaries. In 2003, Nick Bostrom of Oxford University released his paper called The Simulation Argument, and within he put forward 3 statements looking at simulation hypothesis and saying that one of these statements must be true. The first of these puts forward the idea that it doesn't matter how good our technology becomes, how advanced our technology becomes, for some reason the capability of making a simulation evades us. We just don't get there. Now there's quite a pessimistic viewpoint we can take about this, and it's not just saying we can't simulate it. Something happens to stop our technological progression. We never get there. This could hint that there's some calamity waiting for us further down the line, and it's not that hard to conceive the idea that maybe, bearing in mind that 99.9% of all life that's ever existed on Earth became extinct, that our extinctions in front of us before our technological freedoms allow us to get to this level of sophistication. If that viewpoint is true, it would explain a lot of other things. Why we don't have time travelers, because we go extinct before we discover time travel. The second point he put forward was to say that we do reach technological sophistication and we are capable of simulating these level of realities, but for some reason we just don't do so. Could it be an ethical question gets raised where if we've got artificial consciousness, that it's morally wrong to have artificial consciousness and not know or let it know that it's that we're letting these beings run round essentially not really like slaves as such, but ignorant to what they actually are. I dispute this idea, especially if it's a human simulation that we're looking at, because our track record on ethics isn't really the greatest. Off the top of my head, the example that I will go to is we released the power of the sun on the surface of our planet over a civilian population, not once, but twice. And I understand there is the argument that will say it shortened the war and it saved lives, but really, not once, but twice.
Over a civilian population.
There was some ethical barrier that we still went through. So, and that was against real people. So if these are just digital electrons, they're not digital electrons at all. You know what I'm trying to say though? If these consciousnesses is just electrons flowing through circuitry, they're not real people. There will not be any ethical problem or barrier that people won't go, let's just do it, because they're not even people. Look what we do to people. The quickest one to get to is if we have the technological capacity to do so, and we've got no moral obligation to stop us from doing it, you live in a simulation. So I know that some of you are going to need more convincing than just a philosophical, logical argument about it, because you like to see proof. So that's where we're going to go in our next video. We're going to ask the question, if this is a simulation, how would we be able to tell? So if this is the type of thing that you're interested in, it would be great if you could like and subscribe so you can keep the journey going and see where we go next. And I'd be really interested in your viewpoints as well about whether or not you feel this is a simulation or whether or not this actually is based reality. So please go ahead and leave comments. I've really enjoyed your time again this evening, and join us again and I'll see if I can persuade you that actually, yeah, you don't exist. Have a great night.